So with that, we will open things back up for any questions anyone might have. Feel free to unmute or drop them in the chat. Or if there's any already in the chat. I see one question in the chat, correct, Alice? Or Jennifer? Jennifer.
We trust. Oh,
Yeah.
am I muted? Sorry. Thank you. I can respond briefly to Kate's question about how we know whether developers are being honest about whether a potential community benefit is actually feasible. If you could go back to slide 39, Claudia.
Yes.
That described part of the framework about how the city's going to directly connect community benefits to allowing additional growth. So, for example, I'm going to wait till you get the slide up there so I don't talk over myself. Okay, so I can't see it. One of the important things that the community benefits framework tries to do is create some additional transparency around exactly that kind of thing. So they require if a developer wants to build more than they would be allowed under the kind of standard, under the base scenario, they have to submit an application that includes a description of the community benefits they want to provide, and also financial analysis of the cost of the value of those benefits and how it relates to the value of the extra square footage they're looking for, so that the city then can decide whether they're convinced that that it's a fair trade-off there. The feasibility question is a harder one to get at, I think, Cade, because I don't anticipate that developers would be likely to share their profit margins to be able to prove that it's not feasible, but they do have to prove that, or at least demonstrate that the city will be getting something in exchange for that extra growth. I'm not sure if that fully answers your question, but maybe you can raise your hand and speak up if you have follow-up.
Yeah, sorry, just to maybe add a little more clarity there. So I understand there's a framework and they have to kind of submit an analysis of the costs and the benefits associated with a particular improvement. And I think that makes sense. It sounds like that's a pretty good approach. But in determining like the ratio or the types of things that can be asked for as amenities, I guess is more what I'm getting at. Like, could we ask for contamination cleanup at the sites as part of like as an amenity? And then I had sort of like a secondary question, which is just about like for parks, there's also a sense in which like not every park is equally valuable. Specifically in Bellhaven, as part of the Meta project, they built a park that's technically publicly accessible, but is contained, the entirety of it is within the Meta campus. And so it's more of a employee amenity than a community amenity. And so to me, that doesn't hold the same value in terms of a public park as one that's located centrally in the community or located away from the business itself. So I guess my question is more about like how the determination of those benefits and the value of them is made, I guess.
Got it. So I think one of the challenges with exactly that kind of question is how they can set objective guidelines for how they're going to make those decisions, as opposed to being able to spell out this kind of thing is this kind of park doesn't count or this kind of park does. I think they have done some of that in trying to define what access to privately owned parks and open space has to look like. But they also, in terms of their community benefits framework for whether they'll consider extra square footage, they've focused, for using parks as an example, on the amount of square footage that the project is dedicating to that particular thing. So in order to get points to be scored for deciding whether to get they can get extra square footage, they have to demonstrate at various percentages of square footage dedicated to that purpose, as opposed to what precise kind of park it would look like whether it would be a playground or whether it would be a picnic area or just a passive open space. But they will be, in addition, they have to create a scorecard. So the developer will submit a scorecard, basically making their pitch. And then the city staff and city council will look at all of the applications within that review period and allocate the square footage they have available among those projects based on the ones that they think are going to provide the most best benefits to the community. And they have tried to spell out fairly specifically what the priority benefits are, so that developers won't be able to just offer something that the city doesn't see as a benefit and call it a benefit. Yeah.
Just adding to what Jennifer mentioned, like this is why the city has identified like priority benefits that on that tier list would give people developers more points on their scorecard if they implemented some of these benefits into their projects. And there is a question about, do we know how long the community benefits will be provided?
I can take a shot at that one also. I'm not sure. I can't perfectly answer that question. I think in most cases where there's a facility or donation of land, that the plan includes a minimum number of years that the city would have control over that, or that it would be provided. But I think it varies based on what kind of benefit it is.
Mm-hmm. And there's also another question: how do we know when developers have submitted a plan?
I can answer that one.
Thank you.
Sure. So my name is Alvin Jen. I'm associate planner with the city. Typically, any larger scale type of projects that get submitted to the city, and specifically the planning division, those will be posted on the city's website, planning, and there's a map that shows where the project's located in greater detail. So once they do come along, they'll be posted there in the city's website, as well as a own dedicated page that provides a little more details, along with like some high level summary in terms of timeline, and if it's a, let's say if a pre-application was involved, and then if there's a planning commission hearing, that information would be also listed.
Does that
Thank you.
also get like shared on the newsletter for East Palo Alto?
Yes, they should.
Okay. Just because like we weren't aware of the Bloom House, like Emerson's waterfront. And so I think a lot of community members might want to know, like, you know, when these developers are submitting plans, it might be hard sometimes to navigate, you know, this really big development.
For the Bloomhouse project, we have our project consultant assisting us with this. And I believe we've included a radius of quite a large radius. Typically, it's for a larger project, it's 300 feet. I think we included not only the 300-foot radius of the project site, but as well as all the residential addresses in university villages. So we wanted to create a wider net for community outreach.
Thank you so much for answering our questions. Jennifer?
Yeah, I wanted to raise one other point along those lines. The plan does indicate that they want to have that the city wants community involvement in decision making about how the benefits are distributed. And the plan recommends for some form of consistent approach to that, including potentially regular public forums, resident surveys, or an advisory body with representatives of local organizations to offer recommendations to the council about how those about the use of community benefits or spaces. So I think that's a really important thing for the community to provide feedback to the city about whether those types of strategies are what you're looking for, or if there's something different, or if you have a preference among those. I think that could be really helpful for the city to hear from you all about.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that. Right. Does anyone have any other questions? Well, again, this session was recorded. So if you know of someone that was interested in attending today, or someone that should learn a little bit more about the RBD session, we will have the recording in both English and Spanish accessible to community members to access. And I just also wanted to highlight additional ways to get involved now that we're talking about where to look for information. And so, again, wanted to reiterate that the city is looking to get public comments on their comment form for this specific plan update by July 25th. And this is exactly where, as Jennifer mentioned, you can provide that feedback to the city to tell them if something's working, something's not, if you want more clarification on the specific types of benefits that are highlighted in the community benefits framework. This is where you can provide that feedback to the city. And additionally, yes, Jennifer?
Hi, this is Alvin again. So I did get confirmation from our project consultant who's helping us with the RBD that any comments that were made in Spanish, they're also going to be translated and incorporated into the comments as well.
Perfect. That's great news. Jennifer?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to add that sometimes it can be tricky trying to submit your comments in a fixed format, like the city's form. And I'm sure that it is fine also just to send an email to the city or to use some of the spaces in the form that allow you a little more leeway to discuss. So you don't have to go back to the plan and figure out what chapter exactly talked about this concern I had. I think just communicating your concerns in whatever way is the easiest for you is important to do.
Yeah. Or you can also come to a Nuestra Casa office hour.
Yes.
And we can help guide you fill out the form properly and navigate it. Okay. And additionally, we had, oh, thank you. Yeah, and you can also email your comment to the city's email, rbd@cityofepa.org. Another way to be involved, we mentioned the Emerson Waterfront Project. They will be hosting public meetings to talk a little bit more about their plan on the 17th and 18th. The session on July 18th will be in person at Bloom House. And we encourage everyone, if you want to learn more about that development and more about what they're planning for the RBD area, I encourage you to attend that meeting. Yes, and a little link is set with the address and times. And I saw another question on the chat that asks if there's a time frame of when the development will be decided.
Are you speaking specifically about the waterfront project
Um,
or the plan itself?
Sonia, would you mind explaining what you mean by development? If the plan or if the development that we were talking about, the waterfront project.
I could just speak on both.
Yeah.
So larger projects in City of East Palo Alto require a pre-application. That pre-application involves a planning commission hearing, a study session actually, that talks about the project. Planning commissioners provide their feedback, and then staff will take that and provide a summary to the applicant. And with those comments, the applicant will take those and incorporate it into a more developed plan. Currently, right now, it's still very schematic. There's still a lot of details to be provided. And so typically, we try to get these pre-applications done in 60 to 90 days. And the specific plan itself, there's a couple more study sessions. There is one that was previously mentioned in July 25th, I believe, at the end of this month. And then there's still going to be some time for the SEIR or the comment period for that. So I believe the timeline right now is there will be a planning commission, kind of like a SEIR sometime in early September. The final SEIR is roughly October, and then there's going to be a tentative council meeting to make a final decision on the RBD update sometime late September, early October. So we're hoping to wrap this up before the end of this calendar year. And the rough timeline is currently on the City of East Palo Alto's RBD website. I can drop the link as well in the chat.
Yeah, I think Jennifer shared the RBD specific plan update link. That okay. Yes, thank you. Right, I'm trying to see if any other questions were missed. Okay. Well, again, if any other question arises about this development, in terms of land use, mobility, utilities, you can always reach out to us to provide just additional feedback. And again, I just want to reiterate that we worked on this as collaborators to provide you this presentation that just provides the information that we thought was the most important to understand this program as community members. But ultimately, we are not the people who designed this plan. We're just here to provide you the information. But we are happy to answer any questions that we can find from within the specific plan. And we've shared in the chat also specific office hours where you can come in and have a chat with us to provide your public comment. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but I encourage you, if you have any further questions or concerns, to drop by. Any further questions, anyone? All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming to this session and learning a little bit more about the RBD. I appreciate everyone's questions about this plan and encourage you to be a little bit more curious with the plan. Again, we are here to help you submit your public comments, and we'll be following this project along and inviting you all to continue to stay involved during this process. All right.